We are making Aquapark Tycoon, a water park tycoon simulation with everything that should be present in a water park, such as slides. And for that we want to create the best water slides, with more freedom, more options and just more funny stuff you can do. But first of all we needed to lay the groundwork. We are working with our very own engine, so that doesn't make things easier, so don't be surprised if you see some shots where there are no shadows or other visual artifacts. That's because at that point in time, that stuff wasn't developed yet. So first we need to figure out how to create our slides procedurally. Because we want the players to build every known type of slides, but also all kinds of shapes, steep slides, flat ones, and so on. For that we relied on procedurally generating the slides by code, rather than letting our art team suffer and creating hundreds of different models for each different occasion the player might build a slide on. And yeah, it works. Don't worry, we can make it pretty later. But the basic functionality stands, even if it's still very thin and dry. After some more iteration, making the slides thicker, it looks a lot nicer now. And we even have shadow rendering, as well as a bunch of other visual improvements that happened over the time. But there's one feature that so many players requested, and that is physics. So since the start, when we first announced our game at the 𝐒𝐤𝐚𝐥𝐬 Game Show,
Ihr seht das jetzt, wir sehen das jetzt zum allerersten Mal. Ich sag auch gar nicht, was es ist. Schaut euch einfach an.
in Twitch chat, players would only ask if you could drown the people, hurt the people in your park. Well, so because of that, and because we don't want it to look like that the people in the park are just laying on a conveyor belt, we added physics to our guests. So they can bounce around in a slide, and if you don't build it right, they can even fall out and hurt themselves. To achieve that, we needed to calculate a bunch of possible scenarios for all the different guest types. Because, for example, children are lighter than adults, so they will behave differently in slides and have another physics curve to follow. We also added a test run you could do by yanking a crash test dummy to a slide. This dummy basically takes all the curves of all the guests and checks if one guest would fall out in the calculations. And if so, then the dummy would also fall out, and therefore, you know, well, I maybe need to change something. It is a way to test your slide before you open it for everyone to use. But you can also open your slide without testing it and just leave it up to chance. Because we iterated a bunch of different ways of building your slide. From a temp clunky button approach at the very beginning, to a prettier, still clunky button approach, but that fit more of the whole UI of the game, to an intended to be smooth, but in reality not so really smooth feeling dragging approach, to now a not clunky, actually nice feeling button approach. If you also want more in-depth information for how your slides affect all the forces and stats of your guests, you can enter our heat map and see all the different properties of your slide, and see if you by accident made a slide where the G powers are just a little bit off. And now to the feature where most of the people that played it at Gamescom this year had the most fun while building their slides, the POV mode. It's just so fun to build a complete monstrosity of a slide and then slide through it yourself, which this may sound pretty trivial to develop, just tape a camera to the head of one of the guests, but in reality it was much more challenging than that. Because, for example, you need an effect for POV cam when it goes underwater. Maybe the most challenging part was masking out the terrain if you build a slide through a hill or a mountain, but in the end it just makes it so much more fun to build slides with it. We also added a bunch of different slide types because we wanted you to build all kind of crazy slides that you dream of, and even a bunch of special parts that you can build. So with that many options, I think that the players will have a lot of fun playing around with the slides, but it's by far not the only thing in our game. And we highlight the other stuff in some later videos, but it would be great if you wishlist our game on Steam, because this really helps to support the development. And if you want to leave some suggestions for the game or just talk with the community, you can join our Discord server. Until next time.